Sabres Live is presented by Seneca Resorts and Casinos. Nothing else comes close.
We are going to overtime.
Sabres are 1-1 after opening week in the NHL. Welcome in with Marty. I'm Brian. And when you're serious about the game, bet on Buffalo at the only sports books in Western New York. Seneca Resorts and Casinos betting counters are open daily, and self-service betting kiosks are available 24/7 at all three locations. Whether you visit Seneca Niagara, Allegheny, or Buffalo Creek, the Sports Lounge features the latest lines and multiple screens so you never miss a play. The sportsbook at Seneca Resorts and Casinos, where the love of the game meets the thrill of the win. Marty Baron. I loved the thrill of the win on opening night, but I'm like the rest of them now. I'm pissed off that they didn't get the win against the Panthers. That was the buzz phrase emanating from KeyBank Center, whether it was coaches or players, after Saturday's loss.
Well, I think you want to be pissed off because you want to win every game, and you want to build this rivalry with the Florida Panthers, and I think that's where the pissed off came from. Now, I had the Sabres 1-1 after 2 games. I didn't know if they were going to beat Ottawa and lose to Florida, or lose to Ottawa, beat Florida, but I had them at 1-1 after 2. So I'm not pissed off. And I thought they played really well against the Ottawa Senators and shut things down, played well defensively. And, Craig Anderson really came up big. And then Eric Comrie looked really good against Florida. The Sabres gave too much space to the Florida Panthers, especially around the crease, 2-on-1s. And they're going to clean that up. But I'm not pissed off after 2 games. I like that what you're ticked off about. You want to play better and you want to win every game. I like that, but as an analyst and as a fan, I'm not mad about it. That's exactly where I thought they'd be.
Well, that's because you're always, so happy all the time. I'll take the emotional side and where, if you really want to get me upset, you should have seen my reaction when the Amerks took needless penalties in the third period and blew what was a fully controllable game because Luukkonen was playing so well in goal. Anyway, they're 1-1 also. We may dive into that real quick. Before the end of this rapid-paced kind of boom, boom, boom type of podcast this week on Sabres Live Overtime. Eyes and stats. Give me 3 players you are happy or concerned about right now.
Okay, well, number one, I'm happy with Craig Anderson. He looked really good in the first game, beating his former team, the Ottawa Senators. So that's one thing that's looking good. And really, goaltending in general, I think we can say Comrie looked good as well. So that's 1. 2, Rasmus Dahlin. He has looked so good, scored in both games. Not just scoring, but his confidence with the puck, incredible. And 3, I'm going to say Alex Tuch. His skating, is attacking of the net. And now what we saw on Saturday afternoon is Don Granato putting Tuch with Thompson and Skinner in the third period. We're going to have to keep an eye on that, but I think that's because Tuch has looked good playing away from Thompson and Skinner, so he put him with him. So those are the 3 guys I would say I think they're looking really good.
Well, quickly on that, he put him with him, but the team did nothing offensively in the third period. So did it really work?
Well, I don't think it's I'm not going to put that on Tuch.
No, I'm not asking you to. I'm just saying like it didn't change anything. So are you likely to see it stick based on the fact that, again, I'll reemphasize, like nothing offensively in the third, couldn't get their goalie out, couldn't get offensive zone time, had 5 shots in total of the period while trailing the entire time. That's what they should be pissed off about. But the coach isn't. The coach is actually happy about it.
I think they are pissed off about it. And that, to me, that I'm going to single out the group of forwards now, and the veterans that are there and that have been there and have produced. That's what I'm looking at in the third period. Where were you? Because we saw Don Granato giving 2 shifts, I believe it was 2, to JJ Peterka, Jack Quinn, and Peyton Krebs. So the rest of the group, the 9, right? Even when you look at Calaposo and Zemgus Girgensson, Rasmus Asplund playing basically a regular shift with only 3 lines going back to back to back, and the rest of them, to me, needed to step up. But I think that Tuch was the one that was trying, was doing things in that game, and then got put with Thompson and Skinner. You need all 5 on the ice to be on the same page to produce, and especially the whole line, and that didn't work.
The reduction in ice time for Quinn and Peterka started sadly in the second because of all the penalties, and Quinn had 8 shifts over the final 2 periods, including 3 of them under 25 seconds. Peterka had 9 of his 19 shifts in the game were 27 seconds or way less than that. So it'll be interesting to see how things get reconfigured here moving forward, and or usage of said players, because it is an interesting and challenging road trip ahead for sure about that. I was hopeful that Victor Olofsson would really benefit from having those 2 empty netters at the end of the game against Ottawa. But the reality is now, through 2 games, it stands out like a bit of a sore thumb that Olofsson has not been on the ice for a single high danger chance for. That would be my trend that absolutely can't continue among this group of forwards. And yes, it's early, but what else are we going to talk about? So we can only talk about what we have to talk about, Marty.
Yeah, and I think you say concerning. What's concerning me was Skinner, Thompson, Olofsson,
Okay.
not only as a group but individually.
Mm-hmm.
What I saw, look, it's 2 games, so am I going to hold it against them? No,
Right.
not yet. But they're going on a very, very tough road trip now, playing Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and Seattle. Those 3 are going to have an impact offensively, and the first 2 they didn't. So that is probably the most concerning of the first 2 games.
What about Owen Power at this point, leading the team in high danger chances against that he has been on the ice for? What do you see there?
I think Owen is a little bit like a deer in the headlight right now, in the sense that he's trying to do a lot, and he's creating good things, but also creating bad things against. Right, so that to me is the field that I have for Owen Power. It's not Henry Jokiharju, because a lot of the turnover and the high danger chances that are happening are directly caused by Owen Power and his play. But we all know the way that Owen is as a defenseman, roving all over the place, taking chances. It's just a matter of timing. And one day you're on it, the next day you're a little off. And he's been a little off, but there were some really nice plays, and I'm going to give him all the time in the world. Listen, it's his first real NHL season. Played 8 games last year. So I'm going to give him all the time in the world. I'm not concerned about him, and I'm not concerned about the numbers right now.
How about a surprise stat? Can I offer one up to you?
Always.
And I only say it, and it's probably tongue in cheek, because I'm ripping on those who rip on this guy. The only player who is perfect and at this level at 5-on-5 play, goals for and against, Henry Jokiharju, has been on for 3 goals for and 0 against. So I would, at this point in time, want to quote Michael Bublé, but I won't.
No, you're not going to say what Bublé said about the Leafs. But I'll tell you this. At the end of the game against the Florida Panthers, we saw a switch in the deep pairing, maybe changing a few things. And it was Dahlin and Jokiharju, obviously, put together a little bit. And I think that is because Henry has looked good. I'm not saying Henry's doing anything out there to wow everybody. But you have Dahlin that can do that, and you have Power that can do that. So Henry's doing his job right now, and that's all you can ask for.
I liked Samuelsson yesterday too, or on Saturday, I should say. What did you think?
When he took a puck in the face and almost still scored and knocked the net over, came back. Yes, I liked Samuelsson's game against the Florida Panthers on Saturday, but you're not. So what we saw in the first game against Ottawa is all 3 pairs really, really working well. Bryce and Lyubushkin looking really good, and it was Samuelsson and Dahlin and Power Jokiharju looking good. Now, we know they're young. We know that the top 4, especially, extremely young. It's going to take some time, but you can't have just one pair going. You can't have just 2 pairs going. That all 3 pairs are going to have to go, because that, I believe, how the Sabres will have success.
Quickly on special teams, power play is 0 for 8. The penalty kill sounds nice at 8 for 10, but it cost them in the second period against Florida. So far, that's a double negative.
Yeah, there was 2 goals that the Florida Panthers scored on the power play. The power play is what is concerning to me. The penalty kill, there was miscommunication, misassignment. Aaron Ekblad walking all alone while Calaposo went left. Zemgus Girgensson was already on the left, and then Ekblad is like, well, thank you very much, I'll walk in. And that, to me, will be corrected. Yeah. What I didn't like about the power play is that even though we talked about, there's 2 units out there, there's guys on both sides that can shoot, there's passers and playmakers on both units, I don't recall maybe one or two good looks on one-timers. Tage Thompson had a good one-timer. I believe it was blocked. Victor Olofsson had one-timer. And Anton Forsberg read it really well. I believe it was in the first game. He came over and knew exactly it was coming. I haven't seen the looks that I would hope for from that power play.
Yeah, Thompson definitely had one that was thwarted. He's had so this led me down and had nothing to do with special teams, but I was just trying to be, silly because that's what we do. When it comes to potential line changes moving forward here, are 53 and 72 a duo?
Well, Don Granados talked about their chemistry, and look, they have had chemistry together in the offensive zone, right? In the offensive zone. Olofsson, Thompson, Skinner had a tough time getting into the offensive zone. I felt like they were all three on their own separate islands. We had Jeff Skinner at the far blue line looking for those bank passes off the wall for breakaways. And he had Thompson in the neutral zone looking for the middle of the ice open. And then you had Olofsson, who's like, I'm not really a puck carrier. I'm a guy in the offensive zone that is looking for shooting lane. That's why I think Tuck on that line works well. How did Tuck score his goal? Carried it through the neutral zone, got it from Jokiharju. Even before that, the chance that I illustrated on the broadcast Saturday afternoon was Tuck through the neutral zone, getting the puck, making a play, right? I think Tuck is really good through the neutral zone with his size and speed, which is something Thompson and Skinner need, because with Olofsson, they're not getting in the offensive zone. But there was a chance in the Ottawa game where Thompson went to Skinner behind the net and came back to Thompson. He took a quick shot. Probably their only and best chance so far in the first two games. It was in the offensive zone, but they haven't gotten there so far a whole lot.
Anyone else that we haven't touched on the roster right now before we kind of quickly move on to even more wide-ranging and ridiculous tongue-in-cheek type stuff?
Jacob Bryson killing 5-on-3s, killing penalties. I mean, this may be a new role for Bryson. I don't mind it because, yes, he's not the biggest and the most physical, and blocking shots is probably not what we've seen out of Bryson, but he's quick. He's got a good stick, reads the play well, so maybe that's going to work. Lyubushkin was, I thought, really good in the first two games. There's some physicality there, but the puck moving and the speed, I think, is something that I had him more underrated in that part. So he showed well in the first two games.
They tell you who Bryson is really good friends with?
Yes, you did.
Bo Horvat's cousin.
Oh, Travis Konechny. Yes. Yes, you did. You did.
I have learned a lot this week
about Travis Konechny, but why I hesitated is because I know you said Konechny was Bo Horvat's cousin. So I was like, wait, did I make that up that Bryson's good friend with Konechny, or both stories connected? So, yes.
Anyway, league stuff. What is wrong with the NHL after its first full week?
Oh, I don't know what you mean, and I kind of had a feeling you were going to go there.
Why? Because are you saying I'm negative?
Wrong. I don't know what you mean by what is wrong.
Okay, well, let me tell you this then. Why is Troy Terry a unicorn at the moment?
Oh my gosh, please stop saying unicorn. I had 37 goals last year. If he started hot and scored a few in his first few games, that's because he can score.
No, that's not it.
If Tage Thompson had scored 4 goals in his first 2 games, are we calling him a unicorn? He had 38 last year.
Nothing to do with that. Why is Troy Terry, after the first full week of the season, a unicorn by NHL standards?
I have no idea.
He's the only player to have scored an overtime goal. What has happened to this league and its alleged competitive balance? We have almost no overtimes. We've had no shootouts. What's going on? Where's the competition factor here?
What stood out to me in the first few days of the first week of
goaltending.
Bad goaltending and a lot of goals scored. That's what stood out to me. There's been some really bad performance in that where, Phil Grubauer in Seattle is terrible in the first game. They go to Martin Jones. He plays well. The next game, Martin Jones is terrible. He gets pulled. Jack Campbell gets pulled in the Battle of Ontario. Jacob Markstrom didn't even play in the first Battle of Alberta. I should have said Battle of Ontario. Sorry, my geography is off. Jacob Markstrom didn't even play in the only game in Edmonton this year in the Battle of Alberta. Why? Because, Daryl Sutter is like, well, in the first game, like Jacob Markstrom was just average. And, last year in the playoffs, he wasn't great against that team. So, like, goaltending has been iffy in the first week. Jussi Saros has had a tough North American start, too. He looked good in Europe. He had a tough start in North America.
What do you make of that story that the Predators are planning to relocate?
I don't think that's happening.
What? I'm sure the city of Bern would welcome them with open arms on a full-time basis.
Because
the problem is they might not have a league to play in then. Oh.
Well, I know it's tongue in cheek, but quickly the NFL is looking at maybe a European league at some division at some point. Mm-hmm. I know there's great cities, hockey cities in Europe, like Bern, like we know in Germany there's a lot, but Prague is a great hockey city. Helsinki, Stockholm, they're great hockey cities. I mean, we could see that happening too. And then how about like a guy like Roman Josi or some European guys like Rasmus Dahlin in a few years? I'm not saying that to start something, but getting a chance to play in Sweden, like that would be really cool.
By the way, there's been 11 NHL defensemen with 3 points this year. Dahlin is one of them, but he stands atop the defense scoring list after 1 week because he's the only defenseman with 2 goals. Okay, 765-5444. Is that the call-in number to Sabres Live that we never answer, or is it in fact the bottom 7 teams in the NHL and the first digit of their goals against average?
Well, I know it's the second one because the phone number doesn't exist. I tried to call that number earlier. It doesn't exist.
Minnesota has given up 7, Arizona 6, Anaheim 5.4, New Jersey 5, Columbus 4.6, LA 4.6, and Vancouver 4. That's a tough way to start the year.
Duffer, LA, right? At Minnesota. They get off to an unbelievable start. Cal Peterson couldn't stop it. It was 6-6 in the third period. And
Not
then
for long it wasn't.
7-6. Like, oh my goodness. And Marc-Andre Fleury, look, maybe it's not on him, but I said it last year. I didn't know why Minnesota went to go get Marc-Andre Fleury because they had Cam Talbot and Kaapo Kähkönen, and I thought their tandem was really good. And then they decided to extend Fleury and trade Talbot and trade Kähkönen. And I like Jesper Wallstedt, but he's young. So now you're relying on
not even
Fleury
there.
I believe at the end of his career and struggling and a young guy. Like, it's not good for Minnesota.
No, Philip Gustafson's the backup, if you want to call it that, right now to Fleury, and he obviously absorbed the loss against the Kings in what turned out to be an LA 7-6 win that Peterson was quoted afterwards as saying that he hopes he never has to live through again, although he's quite happy to have secured a victory in a game that was horribly uncomfortable the entire way through. All right. The league, by the way, is averaging 6.3 goals per game through its first 38 games. So the offensive number, as you alluded to, is still, where they would like it to be or close to where they would like it to be. We're just not seeing the same drama, the same number of comebacks, the extended games right now. So we'll see how quickly that changes. Who do you love and or loathe at this point in time through the first full week in the NHL? Like names at either end of the spectrum that you're just like, you're so happy to see success for that person, or you're quietly going, to the tough start.
Well, I'm not.
You would never be that guy. I would be that guy.
I'm not going he. But listen, Nazem Kadri with Calgary, I think, is a perfect fit, and I am all look. Kadri is a little weasel, and he's gotten suspended, and he does some things on the ice that are a lot borderline. But he's also had to deal with a lot, and we saw last year there was racism towards him on social media and everything, and he goes out to Calgary after a tough off season. It took him forever to sign, right? And I really like the way that Calgary is playing right now. So I'm going to say Nazem Kadri, and scoring a goal in the Battle of Alberta on Saturday night. I think this is one of those, and I'm like, yes, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Calgary, who lost Tkachuk and Gaudreau and get Huberdeau and Kadri and Weegar. and are off to a good start. I'm happy for that team. One guy that maybe it's because we got to see him Saturday night, and I think we'll develop a rivalry with everybody in the Eastern Conference is Matthew Tkachuk. And so just because we got to see him, and because he low-bridged Henry Jokiharju and Tuck went after him and all of that, I'm like, okay, let's pay close attention how many teams he pisses off this year in the conference.
How many teams are there in the conference again?
Well, he's not going to piss off his own team. So there's
you don't think? Oh, give it time. There's always an off day where things go awry, right?
Maybe, but I would say 15.5 is the over-under on teams he gets mad in the Eastern Conference. So if you think he's going to make Florida mad, you go the over. I'm going to go the under at 15.
Yeah. What do you, from what you were able to gather, and I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little bit with this, but Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen was a game star in each of the first two Amerks games, a home ice victory at Blue Cross Arena 4-2 over the Marlies, a really tough 3-1 loss on Saturday where he stopped 37 of 39. It is worth noting that the 4 goals that have gotten by him, because one Toronto goal was an empty net, 3 of the 4 were power play, and 1 was on the first shot of his season that was assisted directly by an Amerks unfortunate giveaway. So now that I've clouded your judgment,
you don't have anything.
What do you know? What are you excited about with what we're seeing in Luukkonen right now?
I'm excited because he had a really good camp, and he needs to go to Rochester and dominate and be that guy. That's going to play a lot. Malcolm Subban injury, that's going to give him even more time to play, especially early in the season. And Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen needs that. Do you remember Igor Shesterkin with the Hartford Wolfpack?
Yeah.
He played a full 2/3 of the season in the American League before going up to the Rangers because they had Lundqvist and Georgiev. There were some injuries, and he went up to New York. He dominated the AHL like nobody's really dominated the AHL like Shesterkin in a while, right? And Shesterkin did that and played a lot of games at the AHL level before going up to the NHL. That's what I want for UPL. I want him to say, like, he's dominating. He's at the top of the statistical category, either in save percentage or goals against average and wins. And every time he goes into a building, people are like, that's UPL. That's their guy. That's their goalie. That's the Sabres goalie maybe of the future or whatnot. And then maybe after playing 30, 35, 40 games, let's see where the Sabres are at. That's not bearing any injuries or whatever with Anderson and Comrie, but there's no reason to say, oh, well, UPL's look good in the first 2 weeks or in the first month or whatnot. No, he's got to look good over 3 or 4 months. And he's got to have that feeling that he goes in and dominates and he's the guy, right? That's important.
Yeah, Saturday, Lucas Rusek scored the only Amerks goal. It was, and he's been so good through everything, development camp, prospects challenge, preseason, you name it, from Cederqvist and Jobst. And they were really, I thought, in control of the game. Unfortunately, it was one of those, marbles in the pockets kind of game for the officials where Toronto got the first 3 penalties and the Amerks got the last 4. And it led to what turned out to be really lopsided shot total over the last 2 periods, 30-13, including 18-7 in the third. But all that being said, like, the game was stable at 1-1 after the Marlies had tied it on the power play. And then I hope this doesn't have a, although maybe I hope it just, the theme of the show is pissing someone off. I hope Brett Murray's pissed off. It was a really ticky-tacky penalty in the neutral zone. Like, there'd been contact, and then he's going to the bench, and like he turns around and like does a little kind of hook jab at the skates of the guy, and of course the guy flops. And of course they call it. And then of course, probably the only blemish through the first 2 games of Luukkonen's weekend is that goal. That's the go-ahead goal. And you're just sitting there going, ugh. This is like the hockey gods, how they conspire against you sometimes to teach you lessons and stuff like that. So it was frustrating. And I certainly wouldn't blame Brett, although he probably knows like it was not a smart decision to do that. It's just, I don't know. How
call
many?
it.
How
They
many
have to
times?
call
How many
it.
times? It had no relevance to the play, though. It wasn't like the guy was involved
I
in the
understand
play.
that, but
Yeah.
this or that, which was the worst call? The Brett Murray penalty or the Rasmus Dahlin cross-check penalty, where he barely
Oh my
touched the
gosh.
guy Saturday
Oh
afternoon.
my
He
gosh.
tried to cross-check him, but
Right.
it's like it never got there. Like he
Mhm.
barely touched him because the guy got too far away from him. But the referee's angle was one that, but he cross-checked air and he got
Yeah.
a penalty on it.
Yeah. That was
That was bad.
That
Hey,
was
I know
shocking.
what's wrong with the NHL too. There's another thing that's wrong with the NHL. That we're in the first week of the season and Toronto have Matt Murray hurt and they don't know what's going to happen, that they almost had to sign a goaltender to a PTO to back up Ilya Samsonov on Saturday night because
Yeah.
they're too tight to the cap. You know what's wrong with the NHL is that teams are at the cap or with a few dollars left off, that they're struggling to manage their actual team because they're too tight to the cap.
Maybe, or they're just manipulating by saying, hey, Matt, if you're not 100%, why don't you take a seat for a month and we can call 3 guys up from the Marlies. It's going to make our team better. That's exactly what happened to Toronto, and they're probably going to roll better now with Samsonov in goal anyway. So
yeah, but you're Matt Murray.
I know. I'm
Murray, and they tell me,
I'm being facetious.
hey, you know what? LTIR would be better for you. I'm not that hurt, and I don't want to go on LTIR. I don't want to be done 10 games in 24 days, and then the next time I'm going to play, it's in November. I don't want that, but I understand what you're saying. It's convenient to the Leafs that all of a sudden now they can call up Nick Robertson and whatever because they have the cap room with Murray on long-term IR.
Mm-hmm. The name to and the list is long from the Amerks, but people would gloss over after opening weekend the name that has not found the score sheet yet, but has been really fun for me to watch, and that's Alexander Kisakov. Leads the team with 6 shots, and I think he's all around it. Yuri Kulik is really close to, when Victor goes through those phases where he's kind of dusting off the one-timer or he needs it to be absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of Kulik's game right now, is he's always the target. The puck is always finding him. And it's like, it's only a matter of time before he absolutely starts owning this shooting position. And so I'm excited for that. And I will say it's a good week to continue checking out the Amerks. The Sabres are hitting the road, obviously, so some late night starts, but the Amerks are home on Wednesday to Belleville, home on Friday to Syracuse before a return engagement down the highway on Saturday in Syracuse against the Crunch. So ample opportunity to invest a little time there with the Amerks. What did you just hit me with? A dis or dat, was it?
Yeah, I said the worst penalty. Murray
the worst penalty. So the worst, yeah. So I'll go with the Brett Murray one. Fill in the blank.
I have another dis or dat for you, but go ahead, do fill in the blank.
The Sabres season will be blank if they don't finally beat the Kraken.
Will be the same. Like, it doesn't matter. They played 2 times against them, one there, one here. It's not like, like back in the days with the Bills, like it was, if they beat the New England Patriots, our season's made, or the Sabres, if they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs, our season's made. The Kraken, I don't care. They're another team that you have to beat or not beat, whatever.
Okay.
But it's funny that they've never beaten them, though. Like last year, they didn't.
It's not funny. It's not funny at all. No one's laughing about this. It needs to stop, and it needs to stop on this road trip.
2 games against them. 2.
Okay. Give me your other dis
or that. It's been like 7 years, and they haven't beaten them in 7 years.
It feels like 7 years. You know how long we've been talking about the Kraken? And they're built up into the NHL.
Right now with this fill in the blank.
Okay, you want the truth? The truth is I'm still mad about Will Borgen being there, okay? This hurts. I hate it.
It does hurt. I understand.
Okay, what's your dis or dat? What's the last dis or dat you had for me?
Yes. Sabres are going to play the Oilers and the Calgary Flames this week. Dis or dat, which one is the better team after Battle of Alberta Saturday? I saw Calgary Flames win. Dis or dat, the better team, the Oilers or the Flames?
Ooh, I'll go Flames.
I still think the Oilers.
The Oilers are more dangerous, but the Flames, I think, are the better team. Like, the problem with the Oilers is it doesn't matter if Buffalo goes up 4-0 in the first period. That's not going to be how the game ends, and it may well get really, really, really hairy by the time it's all said and done, because the Oilers are just that type of team.
Just like it was against the Flames. They're down. The Oilers are down 4-1, and all of a sudden you're thinking they score 4-2, and you're like stressing for Calgary. They're not going to be able to hold them up. They almost didn't. I think the Oilers, their special teams are just crazy.
50% power play.
David Draisaitl, they're just, the star power there is just off the charts.
Yeah, I mean, their power play did run extremely hot right from the start of last year as well. Right now, they're even with Colorado at 50%. And I mean, yeah, Calgary got scared and then stabilized and won. Vancouver got scared and just got run over. And that leads us to one word to describe the start of JT Miller's season in Vancouver. On for all 8 goals against for Vancouver through the first 2 games, in games where Vancouver led 3-0 and 2-0 and came away empty from those 2 games.
So nickname is the one word for JT Miller, and his nickname is Red Light Rasico. For those who don't remember, Andre Rasico is the backup to Patrick Roy in the late 80s, early 90s years, I believe, with the Montreal Canadiens. And it was just a very average backup, but they nicknamed him Red Light Rasico.
Oh, yes.
So JT Miller, his nickname and his one word is Red Light Rasico, all hyphenated.
Well, he's as peed off as a lot of the Sabres were on Saturday afternoon at this point in time, but it'll change. We're barely getting onto the runway here for this 22-23 season, and look forward, to this road trip. How would you characterize, before we go, one word to describe this upcoming trip?
Timing. It's the best time of year to go out Western Canada because it's beautiful. Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and Seattle. I've never been to Seattle, so I can't speak out of it. I would assume it's beautiful at this time of year as well. So timing is great. Timing to go out as a team, because they play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then they don't play until the Tuesday in Seattle. I believe they're going to stay in Vancouver an extra day or 2 and do some team bonding over there. So for me, that's what it is. Timing is perfect. I love the Western Canadian road trip early in the year. So one word for this road trip is timing. Timing
was to be critical for us on the podcast this week, but I believe we have failed again in my quest to get it under 30 minutes. So we'll try harder next time, and see you soon.